It's the battle for Los Angeles, and if USC gets mighty fortunate in Utah's final two games, it could usher them into a Pac-12 championship game unexpectedly. We're talking Trojans and UCLA, of course, one of the great rivalries in college football. Got Matt Lowry on the line from Conquest Chronicles at SB Nation. This is, of course, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Just watching the USC Cal game. Actually, I was in attendance for that game. It started off pretty slow, but it was pretty good. But it's a lot going on, and it's a lot going on coming up this week. And seeing that it's Troy week right now, a lot of USC fans are, I guess you could say, excited for this. And then at the same time, it's kind of like, it's kind of like right now.
Yeah, it's because Utah's expected to dust off their final two opponents, and it's going to be somewhat meaningless in terms of determining a championship. But it is UCLA, and it's a big rivalry there. Before we march on to the Bruins, Matt, when we talk air raid and what this offense was supposed to be, this is a prime example of what this passing game is supposed to be against what was one of the more stingy defenses in the Pac-12. Slovis puts up 406 yards, and they only let the ball hit the turf 6 times.
Yeah, and it started off, at the beginning, it started off pretty slow. Slovis was holding on to the ball too long. It looked like that he couldn't find a receiver. Now, mind you, Cal's defense with Justin Wilcox running that defense, they tend to disguise coverages. I don't know if you've heard Helton talk about it, but he said the same thing that he mentioned with not Utah, but with Washington, actually, how their pre-snap reads look different than their post-snap reads, and how it confuses a lot of young quarterbacks. I mean, it confused Darnold a little bit. You saw Darnold had some trouble when he played at Cal a couple of years ago. It kind of bothered JT Daniels, but with Slovis, once they got the momentum after that touchdown to go into halftime, and from there it was just the air show. It was just a clinic that the USC passing game put on. It was something that I think a lot of USC fans were waiting to see. They were waiting to see this happen for USC.
So, Matt, when we talk USC wide receivers, and they've certainly been at the forefront of the Trojans' big wins this season, we talk about Michael Pittman, and you can outline his the announcement that he's going to be on the semifinal list for the Biletnikoff Award. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyler Vaughn, those are the guys that get the attention. Drake London had a huge game as well.
Yes, he did, and I think we mentioned it. I think Dina and I mentioned it not too long ago, but Drake London has emerged as probably one of Slovis's favorite targets. His athleticism, he's taking advantage of his athleticism. He's always in the right place to make the right play. He's just come along, and the thing with London is that you could put him anywhere. You could put him in the slot, create a matchup advantage, or you could put him on the outside. Primarily, he's been in the slot, so he's been taking advantage of those matchup problems that defenses have. Not only that, but a lot of opposing defensive coordinators are trying to keep tabs of Tyler Vaughn. Well, Tyler Vaughn was hurt, and he wasn't 100%. Then you got to watch for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Then you got to watch for Michael Pittman. So London just comes in the mix out of nowhere, and he's just making plays. I mean, he's got some criticism. I would say the first 3 weeks of the season, he's got criticism during the BYU game with the game-ending interception tipping right off of his hands. He got criticized, and I don't think it's so much of a criticism of him, but a lot of people were wondering why was he getting the ball, or why was he having the ball thrown to him on critical downs against Washington. Well, now he's really come along, and you can see it's for a good reason.
Talking Drake London, with 6 catches for 111 yards and a touchdown in the Cal game. USC's 41-17 win, London's best game of the year. And again, as Matt mentions, coming on late down the stretch, 27 catches, 3 touchdowns this year. Michael Pittman, though, still led the show with 11 catches for $180. Another enormous game for Michael Pittman, who's being considered one of the best wide receivers in college football.
Yes, he is. He recently he was just named to the Bolitnikov Award semifinal list this morning, which is given to the best to the most outstanding receiver, regardless of position. As I was corrected earlier this year, but it's a great honor for him, and it speaks a lot of him because we know the USC wide receiving core. They've been touted as one of the best in the nation, up there with Alabama and Clemson. It's it's amazing to stand out amongst guys like Tyler Vines, Amon-Ra St. Brown, to say the least. You're standing out, putting up those type of numbers, which right now he's averaging 101 yards per game. And there's only 4 games where he didn't have a touchdown reception. Only 4, which is crazy. Against Cal, he had 180 yards on off of 11 receptions and 1 touchdown reception. Which, if you go on the Conquest Chronicles Twitter page, you could see it right there, right in front of you. But he's just had an amazing season, and I seriously think once the NFL draft comes along, there's going to be an NFL team who's going to be really happy with having him.
Michael Pittman, 82 catches, 1,118 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 games to play. So if you prorate that, he should be well in the 90s in regards to receptions. It's possible he could hit 100 with 1,400 yards, something in that range, which is just eye-popping, especially since the ball distribution. So I check out stats, Matt, as you know, for teams all across the country and covering just about as many teams as I can get to. And usually there's a go-to guy that really separates himself from everyone else. But with all the talent that USC has at wide receiver, for him to put up those kind of numbers with all the other options they have, as you just ran down most of them, is pretty extraordinary for him.
Yeah, it's really impressive. And just looking at it, he this season or on Saturday, he became the first USC wide receiver to hit 1,000 yards receptions on the season since 2017. Excuse me, since 2017 when Deontay Burnett did it. He's doing it in impressive fashion. He's become a very reliable go-to guy. He's very consistent, and he's always going to come down with the big play. That's the biggest thing, is that he comes down with the big play. You could throw a 50-50 ball up there, and Pittman's going to come down with it. He's been the most consistent receiver for USC and the most reliable this season, and that says a lot for Pittman.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love each and every day with the best bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the nation, including analysis, of course, from myself. Please check out my top 25 that actually makes sense, and college football playoff scenarios from every conference, including the Pac-12. That's to be released very soon. Matt, I mentioned USC UCLA is one of the great rivalries in college football. I'm sitting here in the Midwest, and I'm just talking as a national analyst and fan throughout my life. Of when you say USC UCLA, that just sparks to mind. Just first of all, it's the best looking football stadium, and look, this is my opinion, when you put on those UCLA colors, the USC colors, put them on the same field, especially when they play at the Rose Bowl, and in that setting and with those colors, it is the best looking college football game that you're going to see all season. But you just kind of gave it a reaction that everybody's kind of lukewarm about this.
Yeah, and I say that because given how the two teams have played this season, I mean, granted, USC is 7-4 right now, but for I mean, don't get me wrong, it's exciting. It's very exciting amongst the fans, alumni, everybody in the city of Los Angeles. But when you put together with, well, is Clay Helton going to stay or is Clay Helton going to go? Mix it with the Bruins and how the way they performed the last 2 years, especially getting blown out by Utah, and mix that in with it's a 12:30 afternoon game. You're kind of like it's kind of like, all right, I think for USC fans, it's like we just want to get the Clay Helton era over with. I think that's what it is with them. Now, mind you, as the week goes on, it's going to pick up. That tends to happen. But right now, you mentioned it before we went on the air, there's nothing at stake in this game right now outside of the victory bell. No championship implications for USC or for there's no national championship implications for USC or UCLA. USC right now, they just need Utah to drop a game in order for them to get in. But I will say that for me personally, and this is me personally, I'm excited for this. I'm excited for this game. And the reason why I'm excited is because it's USC UCLA. Grew up watching it and everything. So I think I think as the week goes on, it's going to get exciting. But I think a lot of people are just a lot of USC people just they're ready for the Helton era to be done with, and that's a signal of the Helton era possibly being done with.
And again, I allude to growing up a college football fan in my childhood. You know, you people in Southern California have to realize when you're sitting in the middle of Ohio and it's late November, you know, the weather could be decent, or most likely it's going to be about 35 degrees out and gray. And then so you watch Ohio State, Michigan, you watch Nebraska, Oklahoma, all these traditional rivalries I grew up with. And then the late game, like the 4 o'clock game for us on the East Coast, boom, USC, UCLA, boom, the skies brighten and it's 75 degrees and you're at the Rose Bowl and it's just a whole different feel. It's like watching the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day. If again, you're from the Midwest and you're trapped in 18-degree weather and boom, you see the Rose Bowl and it's just like, wow, this is another world. And it's just captivating. And again, the great rivalry between USC and UCLA. So I just pulled up one random site with bowl projections here. And so it's college football news. So I will credit them. They have Michigan and USC playing in the Holiday Bowl. So that would be a nice little event. It's not a top tier bowl game, but that would be a tremendous showdown between two powers. So you brought it up a number of times, Clay Helton. So what I'm trying to project here is where does USC finish? They're going to be a huge favorite against UCLA. Not a ridiculously 25-point favorite, but I got to think, I haven't looked at the line. I got to think they're a 10-point favorite in this game. Have you looked at it, Matt?
They're a 13. Yeah,
Okay,
they're a
there you go.
13-point favorite. It was 13 and a half on Sunday, and it's 13 today.
Okay. UCLA's played much better football as of late. They went on a 3-game winning streak, but the schedule was very kind to them. They haven't improved that much, and we saw that against Utah. They stepped on the field against one of the best teams in the Pac-12, and they just got slaughtered. But USC's not quite at that level, but still a substantially better team than UCLA. Same was the case last year, and UCLA pulled off the upset. So obviously it can't be taken for granted. But USC, let's say, wins this game as expected. They finish 8-4. They go to a bowl game like against a Michigan, which I would think that they would be a pretty decided underdog in that game. But still, if they pull that off, you've been alluding to the Clay Helton situation and what USC Nation, Trojan Nation feels about Clay Helton. Could they fire this guy after they go 9-4?
You know what? I honestly, and this is a situation that we've mentioned before, that we've brought up before. I think because of the fact that, given that yes, USC they rebounded with a 9-4 or 8-4. If they go 8-4, it's the fact that everything else around USC, I believe, has declined. Recruiting has not been the best the last 2 seasons under Clay Helton. It hasn't. A lot of the fans are not, are really, they're done with it. I think if if Mike Bowen does keep Clay Helton, that it's going to create a lot of backlash. And I say that because yes, let's say he does decide to keep him and everything. Was that what you want? As you come in, you're expected to fix the USC football program, and you keep Clay Helton. The uproar behind that is going to be something else. It's something that I can't even imagine. So it's something that I could see. Maybe he reviews it and he goes, you know what? We want USC to be a national championship contender. And right now, we don't see that with him. It could be one of those things. Now, it'll be kind of hard to do because, yes, USC went, 8-4. And we say that if they go 8-4 or win 9 games, yes, they do that. But at the same time, you got to look at the product on the field. They haven't really been ranked as the best. Yes, they're finishing strong, but they haven't really been doing the best. They lost to Washington, I think a game that they should have won. They lost to Notre Dame, a game I thought they should have won. They lost to BYU, which I had no clue how they lost that game. You get blown out. You have 56 unanswered, I believe 56 or 42 unanswered points given up against Oregon at home in front of top recruits. So these are all the things you got to consider before you look at, well, he ended strong. And we can mention the ASU game too, going up 28-3 and then only scoring 3 points after that. So I think that's where I don't know. I think that's a real possibility, but it's a tricky one at that too, depending on what you're looking at and how the new athletic director looks at it.
So entering the big game against the UCLA, USC sitting at 7-4, most likely finish at 8-4, as outlined by Matt. It would take a near miracle for them to make their way, backdoor their way into the Pac-12 championship game. Utah's got to lose one of its final 2 games. They're going to be an enormous favorite against Arizona and against Colorado. That's what it would take for USC at 7-2 in the conference to win it. 4 overall losses. It's not been the disaster that last season was. It's been a slight upgrade that makes it obvious that Helton's going to be cut loose. But at the same time, it's not what USC fans are looking for. A substantial and prominent contender for a Pac-12 championship. All right, Matt, we appreciate you stopping by. Please, I encourage everyone to stop by Conquest Chronicles to check out Matt's work there and the rest of the staff there at SB Nation covering USC. Matt, we appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.